The edge of known space held many secrets, and the small blue-green world called New Harmony was one of them. Humans had come here many years ago, seeking peace away from the crowded, noisy cities of old Earth. They built simple homes with wide fields and schools where children laughed under 2 warm suns. The colony numbered 12,000 souls, most of them families, farmers, teachers, and a few scientists who studied the gentle native plants. Overlord Vexthar commanded the Khazari strike fleet from his flagship, high above the planet. The Khazari were tall insect-like beings with hard black shells and many sharp limbs. They ruled a vast dominion across dozens of systems, and they took what they wanted without question. New Harmony sat on top of rich mineral veins that the Khazari needed for their war machines. Vexthar saw the human settlement as nothing more than pests in the way of progress. He gave the order with cold clicking sounds. The fleet moved into position like a swarm of dark shadows. Orbital cannons charged with a low hum that vibrated through the empty space. Drop pods detached and fell toward the surface in perfect lines. The humans below had little warning. A few automated alarms sounded, but most people were eating breakfast or walking children to school. The first strikes hit the outer farms. Fields burst into flame. Houses crumbled under precise energy beams. Militia fighters rushed to their posts with rifles and light vehicles. They fired back bravely, but the Khazari armor shrugged off the shots like rain on stone. Ground troops poured from the pods. Hundreds of warriors with segmented legs and glowing compound eyes advanced in tight formation. They cut through fences and walls without slowing. In the central town, the school buildings stood bright and cheerful, with colorful murals on the walls. Children inside sang a morning song. Their teacher, Miss Clara, smiled as she pointed to a map of the stars. Outside, the sky darkened with smoke, and the ground shook. A mother, named Mara, pulled her son close at the window. She whispered that everything would be fine, even as fear tightened her throat. The Khazari commander on the ground received new orders. Eliminate all resistance. Secure the mines. No exceptions. The warriors turned toward the school. They saw small figures running across the yard. Some children carried wooden toys. Others held hands with friends. A warrior raised his plasma rifle and fired. The beam struck the front wall. The building exploded in a roar of fire and dust. Screams rose high and sharp, then faded under more blasts. Mara ran toward the ruins, dragging her boy behind her. She shouted names of missing friends. Pieces of wall and roof rained down. She found little Anna half buried and pulled her free. The girl coughed and cried. Mara held both children tight as another wave of warriors marched past. They stepped over broken bodies without looking down. One warrior paused only to scan the area for threats, then moved on. Survivors hid in cellars and ditches. They recorded what they saw with small personal devices. Shaky footage showed insect warriors gunning down fleeing parrots. Children lay still in the schoolyard. Some still clutched books or lunchboxes. A teenage boy named Tomas crawled to a comm tower. He sent the files out on every open channel. His voice cracked as he spoke. They came from the sky. They killed the children. They killed everyone. Please help us. The message traveled fast through human relay stations. It reached trade ships, mining outposts, and distant colonies. Within hours it arrived at Earth itself. People stopped their daily work to watch the videos. Mothers clutched their own sons and daughters. Fathers stared at screens with growing silence. The images showed faces they recognized from colony updates. Happy smiling faces, now gone forever. On Earth, the first response was quiet. No crowds filled the streets with anger. No leaders shouted for war. Instead, a deep, cold focus settled over billions of people. Parents kissed their children goodnight a little longer that evening. They checked locks and windows. They spoke in low voices about what must be done. In a quiet apartment far from the capital, Elena Voss watched the footage alone. She had taken leave to visit family, but the leave ended that day. Her daughter Lila had lived on New Harmony. She studied plants there and sent messages every week about new flowers she found. Elena had seen the last message only yesterday. Lila wrote about a blue bloom that opened at night. Now the screen showed the school ruins and a small shoe lying in the ash. Elena did not cry. She sat very still. Her hands rested on the table, palms down. When the video ended, she stood and walked to her closet. She pulled out her old uniform coat. It still fit perfectly. She fastened every button with care. Then she opened her comm unit and sent one short message to Fleet Command. I am returning to duty. Effective now. Across human space. Similar scenes played out. A mechanic in a shipyard put down his tools and told his boss he was leaving. A nurse in a hospital ward hugged her patients goodbye. A retired soldier dusted off his rifle case and checked the charge. A young student closed his textbook and walked to the enlistment office. No one argued. No one hesitated. They all moved with the same steady purpose. The Khazari fleet finished its work on New Harmony. They loaded mineral crates onto transports. Warriors returned to their pods satisfied with a clean operation. Vexthar reviewed the casualty report. Human losses near total. Khazari losses minimal. He sent a standard victory message to High Command. The pests are cleared, the mines are ours. High above the burning fields, a single escape pod launched from a hidden bunker. Inside it sat a handful of survivors, among them Mara and the 2 children she saved. The pod drifted toward the outer system, broadcasting a final looped message over and over. They killed them without reason. We will remember. The words floated into the dark between stars. They carried no threat, only truth. Yet somewhere deep in human hearts, those words took root. They grew into something hard and unbreakable, something that waited patient and terrible for its moment to arrive. The galaxy turned on, unaware that a line had been crossed, a line no species should ever cross. The Khazari continued their conquests, confident in their strength. They did not know that far away on Earth, and in every human system, a quiet promise had been made. No one would forget, no one would forgive, and soon every soldier of Earth would answer the call. The message from New Harmony reached every corner of human space like a cold wind that refused to stop. It carried the faces of the dead children and the broken voices of those left behind. Within minutes, the files spread through personal networks, colony boards, trade routes, and military channels. No one tried to stop it. No one needed to. On Earth, the planet that once held 9 billion people now housed only 4 billion after centuries of outward migration. The remaining citizens lived in towering arcologies, green megacities, underwater habitats, and quiet rural zones. The attack footage played on every screen, in every home, office, park, and street corner. People watched in silence. Some held hands. Others simply stared. In a small apartment on the edge of New Shanghai, a father named Chen Li sat with his daughter on his lap. She was 6 years old and loved drawing pictures of stars. The screen showed a girl the same age lying still in the schoolyard. Chen did not speak. Daughter closer, kissed the top of her head and set her down gently. Then he walked to the wall panel and opened his work schedule. He canceled every shift for the next month. Across the ocean, in the rebuilt ruins of old Berlin, a mother named Sophia Reyes stood in her kitchen. The footage looped on her kitchen counter display. Her son Marco was away at university studying engineering. She sent him one text. You saw it. He replied instantly. Yes, Mom, I am coming home. She nodded to herself and began packing a small bag. She included her old service pistol from her days in the Colonial Guard. On the mining world of Epsilon Eridani 4, workers paused their drills. The shift supervisor played the video over the main comms. The rough men and women in heavy suits listened without a word. When it ended, one veteran named Jax stood up. He removed his helmet and said in a low voice, "They touched the kids." That is all he said. The rest of the crew nodded. They powered down the rigs and started loading personal gear onto shuttles bound for the nearest naval yard. The response was not loud. It was not chaotic. It felt like the slow turn of a massive wheel that had been waiting for the right moment to move. Parents across 100 worlds began the same quiet preparations. They checked weapons they had not touched in years. They trained their older children in basic first aid and evasion. They wrote letters to loved ones and stored them in secure drops. They spoke little, but their eyes carried the same hard light. In the Sol System Fleet Headquarters, Admiral Elena Voss arrived at the main command deck without fanfare. She wore her dress uniform pressed and perfect. Her face showed no emotion beyond calm focus. Officers snapped to attention. She walked straight to the central holotable and pulled up the New Harmony system map. Red markers showed the strike locations. Green dots marked survivor escape vectors. She studied them for a long minute. A young lieutenant approached with a datapad. "Admiral, the Council requests your assessment." Elena looked up. Her voice was steady and clear. "They attacked our children. My assessment is simple. We go. We take everything we have. We end this now." The lieutenant swallowed and nodded. She turned back to the table and began issuing orders. The build-up started immediately. Shipyards that built freighters and colony haulers shifted production lines overnight. Massive assembly frames swung around to accept warship components. Retired vessels pulled from mothballs received rushed refits. Engineers worked around the clock, welding, plating, installing guns and shield generators. Private citizens donated their yachts and racing ships. Crews stripped luxury interiors and mounted salvaged weapons. In the outer docks of Luna, a converted passenger liner named Dawn Runner took on volunteers. The captain, a gray-haired woman named Reyes, opened the boarding ramp. She spoke to the line of people waiting. Men, women, young and old. Some carried rifles. Others carried only small bags. One elderly man leaned on a cane, but his eyes burned bright. Reyes asked each one the same question. "Why are you here?" Every answer was the same. "They attacked our children." On Mars, the red planet became a staging ground. Militia units drilled in the low-gravity arenas. New recruits learned to fire pulse rifles and operate boarding pods. In the academies, professors canceled classes and joined the ranks. Students followed without question. A group of medical students formed their own field unit. They packed trauma kits and promised to save anyone who could still breathe. Elena Voss moved through it all like a shadow. She visited yards, spoke to captains, reviewed manifests. She gave no speeches. She asked simple questions. "Are you ready? Do you understand the cost?" Every answer came back yes. She selected her flagship, a heavy cruiser named Retribution. It had once patrolled trade lanes. Now its hull bore fresh scars from rapid armor additions. Its main guns received overcharged coils. Its hangars filled with assault shuttles. She chose her command staff with care, a mix of veterans and fresh faces, people who had lost someone on New Harmony, or who carried the same cold fire in their chests. Her executive officer, Commander Hale, had a son in the school that burned. He never mentioned it. Elena never asked. They worked in silence, side by side. Messages poured in from across human space. Pirate captains offered their fast raiders. Smugglers sent encrypted offers of munitions. Corporate fleets pledged their security vessels. Even isolated research stations volunteered their small defense craft. One transmission came from a lone explorer on the galactic rim. He wrote, "I have no family left, but I remember what family means. I am coming." The Khazari watched from afar. Their intelligence drones picked up the chatter. They saw ship movements and supply runs. They interpreted it as panic, disorganized fear from a soft species. Vexstar reviewed the reports in his command chamber. He clicked his mandibles in amusement. "Let them gather," he said. "We will crush them when they arrive. The swarm prepares for glory." He did not understand the shift in human tone. No victory chants filled the channels. No demands for revenge. Only quiet coordination. Only the repeated phrase, "They attacked our children." It appeared in ship logs, in personal journals, in encrypted bursts between captains. It became a code, a promise, a vow. Elena stood on the bridge of retribution as the final preparations finished. The fleet formed up in loose formation. Thousands of ships stretched across sensor screens, from sleek Navy destroyers to patched civilian hulks. She opened a private channel to her senior officers. Her voice carried no anger, only certainty. "We do not go for territory. We do not go for revenge. We go because a line was crossed. We go because if we do not, every child in every human home will wonder if they are next. We go to make sure it never happens again." Officers nodded as one. Across the fleet, captains repeated the words to their crews. Parents hugged their own children one last time before departure. Some brought families along in support ships. Others left strict instructions for care if they did not return. The armada began to move. Slow at first, then faster. Ships aligned on the jump vector toward Khazari space. Engines flared bright against the black. Engines carried the weight of grief and purpose in equal measure. Far behind on New Harmony, survivors gathered in hidden caves. They listened to the incoming reports of human mobilization. Mara held the two children close. She whispered to them, "Soon it will be over. Soon justice comes." The galaxy remained unaware of the storm building in human hearts. The Khazari continued their daily routines, secure in their numbers and technology. They did not know that every parent, every soldier, every ordinary human now moved with one shared goal. Elena Voss looked at the star map one final time. Time. The course to the Khazari border glowed steady. She gave the order, "Jump." The fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving only silence behind. The human armada emerged from hyperspace at the outer edge of Khazari territory, like a sudden storm cloud, blotting out the stars. Thousands of ships filled the void, from sleek Navy cruisers to battered freighters, patched with scrap metal, and civilian yachts bristling with makeshift guns. They moved in loose waves, no rigid formation, yet perfect understanding passed between every captain. The goal was clear: move forward, destroy resistance, reach the heart of the enemy. Admiral Elena Voss stood on the flag bridge of retribution, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Red enemy icons appeared as the Khazari picket line detected the intrusion. Alarms sounded across the fleet, but no one panicked. Crews went to battle stations with quiet focus. Parents who had never fought before checked their weapons one last time. Engineers ran final power checks. Medics prepared trauma bays. The first contact came fast. Khazari sentinel ships advanced in tight wedge formation. Their plasma lances stabbed out. In bright arcs, human ships answered with a wall of railgun slugs, accelerated to terrible speeds. The lead Khazari cruiser shattered under the impact. Its fragments spun away, trailing fire. Smaller human vessels darted forward like angry hornets. They launched boarding pods filled with volunteers wearing mismatched armor. Some pods carried only rifles and grenades. Others held fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, all driven by the same burning need. On board one assault shuttle, a man named Shen Li gripped his pulse carbine. He had been a mechanic 3 weeks ago. Now he wore scavenged marine plate over his work coveralls. His daughter stayed safe on a support ship behind the lines. He whispered her name once, then focused on the boarding countdown. When the pod struck the enemy hull, cutting charges blew a hole. Crew poured through screaming battle cries that carried the names of dead children from New Harmony. The Khazari warriors inside met them with disciplined fire, fast claws slashing armor. Human boarders fell in rows, but more came behind. They fought hand-to-hand in narrow corridors. Some used knives when ammo ran dry. Others wrestled warriors to the ground, refusing to let go, even as acid blood burned their skin. One young woman named Aisha pinned a Khazari officer against a bulkhead. She stared into its compound eyes and said, "You killed my little brother. Now you die." The warrior clicked in confusion, then went still. Overlord Vexthar watched the battle from his command throne. He expected panic from the soft mammals. Instead, he saw ferocity that made no sense. They threw themselves at superior weapons. They ignored wounds that should have stopped them. His analysts reported strange behavior. Human troops paused to check fallen Khazari young, left alive in the chaos. They carried the small ones to safety, then returned to kill every adult in sight. The contradiction baffled the hive mind. Vexthar ordered reinforcements forward. He believed numbers would win. The battle spread across 3 star systems. Human ships used every trick they knew. They rammed capital vessels when shields failed. They mined jump points with improvised explosives. They broadcast looped footage of the New Harmony school attack on every open frequency. The images played in Khazari command centers. Warriors saw the burning children for the first time. Some hesitated. Others clicked in denial. The cracks appeared small at first, then wider. On the surface of Khazari staging world Theta 9, ground forces clashed. Human dropships rained from orbit. Pods slammed into hive cities, cracking armored domes. Marines poured out, fighting block by block. They moved house to house, clearing warriors from tunnels and spires. Civilians followed behind. Some carried medical kits. Others brought food and water for any young they found. The message spread among human ranks. Spare the children. Kill those who let this happen. A squad led by Commander Hale pushed deep into a breeding. They found rows of Khazari larvae, safe in nutrient pods. Hale raised his hand to stop the advance. He spoke low. "We take them out of here. Load them on the next shuttle back to orbit." The soldiers obeyed without question. They carried the small forms carefully, wrapping them in thermal blankets. A warrior tried to stop them. It died under precise fire. Hale looked at the bodies and said, "They would have done the same to ours. We will not." Losses mounted on both sides. The Khazari fought with mechanical precision, but humans fought with something deeper. Every death fueled the next. Every fallen friend became a reason to push harder. In one brutal engagement, a converted colony ship named Hope's End rammed a Khazari battleship. Both vessels broke apart in a silent explosion. Thousands died in moments. Human survivors from the wreck drifted in escape pods, still firing at anything that moved. Elena Voss directed the fleet with calm orders. She shifted formations to exploit weak points, fast raiders to harass supply lines. She kept the main body driving straight toward the Khazari home cluster. No tricks, no fates, just relentless forward pressure. The Khazari tried counterattacks. They launched swarm fighters in waves. Human point defense shredded them. They sent elite shock troops to board flagships. Those troops met parents who refused to yield ground. In the engine room of Retribution, a firefight raged. Khazari boarders breached the hull. Elena joined the defense herself. She carried a sidearm and moved with practiced steps. She shot one warrior through the thorax, then another. When her clip ran dry, she picked up a fallen rifle and kept firing. A warrior lunged at her with raised claws. She sidestepped, drove her elbow into its joint, and finished it with a point-blank shot. She wiped blood from her face and returned to the bridge without a word. Reports came in from captured Khazari channels. Panic crept into their cliques. Warriors questioned orders. Analysts warned of unsustainable losses. Vexthar silenced them with threats. He refused to see the truth. His swarm had never faced an enemy like this. one that mourned its dead yet fought without fear, one that protected enemy young while slaughtering the guilty. The armada pushed deeper. Systems fell one after another. Human troops secured landing zones, then set up aid stations. They treated wounded Khazari larvae alongside their own. The act confused the enemy more than any weapon. It planted seeds of doubt in the hive mind. If the humans spared the innocent, what did that make the Khazari who had not? Elena stood alone in her ready room. She looked at a small holo of her daughter, Leela, smiling in a field of blue flowers. She touched the image once, then shut it off. She walked back to the bridge. The fleet neared the final jump to the home cluster. She opened the fleet-wide channel. Her voice carried to every ship. "We are close now. We have lost many. We will lose more. But we do this for every child who should never have to fear the sky again. We do this so no parent ever watches a school burn. We do this because they crossed the line. Now we end it." Across the fleet, people nodded. Crews checked weapons one last time. Captains set final courses. Volunteers who came only to bear witness prepared to land and see justice done. The jump engines hummed. The stars stretched. The armada vanished into the light, racing toward the heart of the Khazari Dominion. Behind them, the galaxy watched in silence. The storm had begun, and it showed no sign of stopping. The human armada burst into the Khazari home cluster like a blade cutting through silk. The central stars shone bright around the hive world's massive orbital rings and shielded planets that had stood untouched for centuries. Thousands of human ships filled the space from horizon to horizon. Engines burned steady. No hesitation, no retreat. The Khazari home defense fleet moved to intercept. They formed perfect geometric patterns, thousands of sleek vessels ready to meet the invaders. Admiral Elena Voss watched from the Retribution Bridge. The tactical display showed enemy capital ships arrayed in layers. Their shields glowed with full power. She gave quiet orders. Spread the formation. Use the civilian hulls as screens. Push the heavies forward. The fleet obeyed. Ships fanned out, freighters and liners taking point, while warships hung back. The Khazari opened fire first. Massive plasma beams lanced across the void. Human shields flared under the hits. Some civilian ships crumpled. Others held, twisting away to return fire with every gun they carried. The battle became chaos. Human vessels closed the distance fast. They launched waves of boarding pods and assault craft. Khazari point defense shredded many, but enough got through. Pods struck hulls, cutting charges blew entry points. Marines poured inside, fighting in zero-gravity corridors. They moved with grim purpose, clearing deck after deck. Some carried photos of lost children taped to their armor. Others wore small ribbons in memory colors. The sight drove them harder. On the surface of Khazar Prime, the homeworld, Overlord Vexhar stood in his grand spire. He watched the battlefields with growing unease. His warriors reported impossible numbers. Human ships refused to break. They absorbed punishment that should have ended them. Then came the bombardment. Kinetic rods dropped from orbit. They struck planetary shields with meteoric force. Cracks appeared in the energy barriers. Cities below trembled. Buildings cracked. Clouds, Elena, ordered the next phase. Ground assault. Drop everything we have. The order went out. Thousands of drop pods launched. They fell like rain, streaking through atmosphere. Some carried troops. Others carried medical teams and civilian volunteers who refused to stay behind. The pods slammed into hive cities, cracking domes and burrowing into tunnels. Marines emerged, firing as they advanced. They fought room to room, clearing warriors from nests and command posts. In one breached hive section, Commander Hale led his squad through smoke-filled halls. They found a nursery chamber, rows of Khazari young huddled in protective pods. Hale raised his hand. Hold fire. These are children. The squad lowered weapons. They moved carefully, lifting the small forms. One soldier, a mother named Lena, wrapped a larva in her jacket. She spoke soft words, even though the creature could not understand. "We will not hurt you. You are safe now." They carried the young to waiting shuttles marked with Red Cross symbols. The act spread confusion among Khazari defenders. Some warriors hesitated. Others attacked in rage only to die under human fire. Vexthar received reports of the spared young. His mandibles clicked in disbelief. How can they kill us and save our offspring? It makes no sense. His advisors offered no answers. The hive mind fractured under the paradox. Warriors questioned orders. Some refused to fire on humans carrying larvae. The chain of command weakened. Elena led the final push herself. She took a strike team aboard a stealth shuttle. They slipped past the outer defenses and docked with Vexthar's flagship. The boarding party cut through security bulkheads. They fought to the throne chamber. Every step cost lives, but they pressed on. Elena moved at the front, pistol in hand. She shot down guards with precise aim. Her team followed close, covering each other. They reached the chamber doors. Charges blew them open. Elena stepped inside. Vexthar waited on his elevated throne, surrounded by elite guards. The Overlord rose tall, his shell gleaming under harsh lights. He spoke through a translator device. "You come to die, mammal. Your kind is weak. Your numbers mean nothing." Elena looked up at him. Her voice stayed calm and clear. "You attacked our children. You killed them without reason, without mercy. Now every soldier of Earth is here. Not because we want your worlds, not because we hate your kind, because you made us come." Vexthar laughed, a harsh clicking sound. He gestured to the battlefields behind him. "My fleet still fights. My worlds still stand. You will break before we do." Elena shook her head. "We already broke the day you burned that school. We broke into pieces sharp enough to cut through anything. You thought we were soft. You thought family made us weak. It makes us unstoppable." She stepped forward. The guards raised weapons. Her team tensed. Elena raised one hand. No killing blow yet. She looked at Vexthar. "You will surrender. Your forces will stand down. Your people will live, if you give the order now." Vexthar snarled. "Never. The Khazari do not yield to vermin." Elena nodded once. She spoke into her comm. "All ships, all teams. This is Retribution Actual. The Overlord refuses. Broadcast the final phase now." Across the cluster, human ships opened channels. They sent one image, the burning school, the dead children, the looping message. "They attacked our children. Now see what happens when you do." The bombardment intensified. Planetary shields collapsed in bright flashes. Cities burned, but human troops secured safe zones. They pulled Khazari young and non-combatants to protected areas. Medics worked without pause, treating wounds on both sides. The contrast stunned the Khazari. High Command received surrenders from outer fleets. Warriors laid down arms in hive after hive. Vexthar watched his empire crumble. He turned to Elena. "You think this is victory? You think you can rule us?" Elena holstered her pistol. "We do not want your empire. We want justice. Rebuilt by our hands. You will see the faces of the children you killed every day for the rest of your life." Guards moved forward. They bound Vexthar with energy cuffs. He struggled, but human strength held firm. Elena looked at her team. "Take him to the shuttle. Secure transport. The Overlord will not escape." Outside, the battle wound down. Human ships held position. They ceased fire when white surrender signals appeared across channels. Khazari vessels powered down weapons. Crews opened bays in token of peace. Volunteers landed on the surfaces. They set up aid camps. They fed the hungry. They sheltered the young. They showed mercy where none had been shown before. Elena returned to Retribution. She stood on the observation deck, looking at the burning worlds below. Her face showed no triumph, only quiet resolve. She touched the small hollow of Lila one last time. Then she turned to her executive officer. Prepare the withdrawal plan. Leave peacekeeping forces only. No occupation, no conquest. Finish what we came for, and we go home. The fleet began to regroup. Ships gathered wounded. Ships carried survivors. Ships carried justice. The armada that arrived in fury now prepared to leave in order. The message had been sent. Never touch human children. Never again. Far below, on Khazar Prime, a young Khazari larva looked up at the sky. It saw human figures moving gently among the ruins. It did not understand yet, but the lesson had begun. The stars watched in silence. The line had been drawn in blood and fire, and humanity had answered. The fires on Khazar Prime still smoked when the first human transports began landing in the cleared zones. Volunteers stepped out, carrying crates of food, medical supplies, and building tools. They moved with quiet purpose, setting up temporary shelters and aid stations. Khazari young watched from safe distances, their small forms huddled together. Some human medics approached slowly, hands open, showing no weapons. They offered warm nutrient packs and soft blankets. The larva accepted them with hesitant clicks. The first bridge of trust formed in silence. Admiral Elena Voss walked the rebuilt streets of New Harmony. The colony had changed in the months since the attack. Volunteers from every human world had come. They cleared rubble. They planted new fields. They raised fresh walls around the school site. Now the building stood again, taller, brighter, with wide windows and reinforced steel. The murals on the walls showed children of many species holding hands under shared suns. Front steps. She looked up at the new sign, carved in simple letters. Never again. Overlord Vexthar arrived under heavy guard. He wore no armor, only a plain gray robe. Energy cuffs glowed around his wrists. Human marines walked on both sides. Their faces showed no hate, only duty. They led him to a small, open court set in the center of the rebuilt town. A crowd gathered. Parents, survivors, children young and old. They stood in quiet rows, watching without speaking. Vexthar looked at them. His compound eyes scanned the faces. He saw no rage, only steady calm. The trial began under the open sky. A single judge sat at a plain table. She was an older woman named Judge Mara, the same mother who had saved 2 children during the attack. She spoke in a clear voice. This is not a court of conquest. This is a court of memory. We will speak of what happened. We will hear the truth. Then we will decide. Evidence played on large screens. Footage from the attack day, survivor testimonies, letters from dead. Children. School records showing attendance the day before. Vexthar listened without interruption. His mandibles stayed still. When the last video ended, the burning school, the small bodies, the desperate screams, the court fell silent. Mara looked at him. Do you wish to speak? Vexthar rose slowly. In my dominion, the young are biomass, future workers, future soldiers. We remove obstacles without pause. Your species clings to weakness. We acted according to our nature. A low murmur ran through the crowd, not anger, simple understanding of the gap between kinds. Mara nodded once. Nature does not excuse murder. Your nature crossed our line. Now you face the cost. Witness after witness spoke. A father described finding his daughter under rubble. A teacher told of shielding students until the end. A child no older than 10 stood and said, My friend Anna liked to draw flowers. She never got to finish her picture. Vexthar looked down. He offered no defense. The facts stood plain. Dusk. Mara stood. The punishment is exile. You will live on barren world. Designation, Epsilon Void. No contact, no servants, no technology beyond basic survival. You will carry recordings of every child lost on New Harmony. They will play each day at dawn. You will hear their voices, their laughter, their final cries for the rest of your life. This is not death. This is memory. You will remember what you took. Guards led Vexthar away. He did not resist. A transport waited to carry him to his new prison. The crowd watched him go. No cheers, no insults, only quiet satisfaction. Elena Voss walked through the school halls. Children ran past laughing, some human, some Khazari young brought from the home cluster for safety. They played together in the yards. They learned the same lessons. They shared meals. The sight eased something deep inside her. She stopped at Leela's old classroom. The desk still sat where it had. A small blue flower pressed between glass rested on top. Elena touched it gently. Outside, peacekeeping contingents remained on Khazari worlds. Small forces, only enough to prevent revenge cycles. They trained local guards. They helped rebuild. They showed mercy in action. Word spread through the fractured dominion. The humans did not conquer. They protected. They spared the innocent. They punished only the guilty. Hive minds across the systems began to shift. Old doctrines cracked. New questions rose. What if family was strength? What if mercy won more than fear? Elena stood on a hill overlooking New Harmony. The two suns set, painting the sky gold. She watched children chase each other across fields. Some carried wooden toys. Others held hands. A Khazari larva toddled after a human girl. They laughed in their different ways. The sound carried on the wind. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. She felt the weight lift just a little. Across human space, life returned to normal. Shipyards built freighters again. Universities opened classes. Families gathered for meals. Parents hugged. Children a little tighter. They spoke of the war in low voices. They told stories of courage, of loss, of justice. The phrase "they attacked our children" faded from battle cries. It became a quiet warning, passed between worlds. Never forget. Never allow it again. Elena received messages from every direction. Captains reported safe returns. Volunteers wrote of new lives built. Pirates sent thanks in rough words. Even distant colonies sent gifts, small tokens of gratitude. She read them all. Then she drafted one final fleet order. All forces, stand down, return home. You have done what was needed. Rest now. The armada scattered. Ships jumped to their home systems. Crews stepped onto familiar soil. They hugged waiting families. They told stories. They healed. Some carried scars inside and out. All carried pride. They had answered the call. They had protected their own. On Epsilon Void, Vexthar sat alone in a small shelter. The recording began at dawn. Lila's voice spoke first. "Hi, Mom. I found a new flower. Today, it opens at night like magic." Other voices followed. Names, faces, moments of joy cut short. He listened every day. He could not turn it off. The sound became part of him, a reminder carved deeper than any wound. Years passed. New Harmony thrived. Schools multiplied. Fields grew green. Trade ships arrived from Khazari worlds, now under new leadership. They brought gifts. They shared knowledge. They learned human ways. Elena visited often. She walked the streets. She spoke to children. She told them the story, not of hate, but of purpose. She said, "We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. But when you touch a child, you wake something older than empires, something that does not stop." One evening, she stood on the school steps again. A young girl approached. She held a drawing of a blue flower. Elena knelt. The girl said, "This is for Leela." Elena took the paper. Her eyes grew wet for the first time in years. She whispered, "Thank you." The girl hugged her, then ran back to play. Sky. Stars shone bright. She thought of every soldier who came, every parent who fought, every child who lived because of them. The promise held true. Never again. The galaxy turned quieter now. Worlds watched humanity with new respect. Not fear of weapons, but awe of heart. They learned the lesson well. Do not harm the young. Do not cross that line, because when you do, she arrives, and every soldier of Earth comes with her.